The problem is time. Every time I've had a moment to think, I need to be moving. Just constantly ratcheting between trying to think, trying to survive, and work on the game. I'm hoping that the audience conversations yield us something we really need, but it's still time away from thinking. I wanted more time to talk to Val, but really, right this moment, we have a lead on the other survivors. But especially with the broadcast, that means they know we have a lead on them. Every time I get a bit of time, there's something, and I need to get my head in the game. I know that'll slow down once we're set up, but for the time being, it was going to suck in general. Then the slowdown turns into its own problem. But till we're there, no point dealing with it. Might as well get back to the game.
Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to Uncle Keith's Survival Hour, your one-stop shop for all your how to survive on an alien planet needs. On this episode, we'll be talking about some of the basics of survival that are pretty much universal for us humans. There's several essentials to your outdoor survival. The first, most important thing, is fire. Fire provides warmth, so you don't get yourself some hypothermia or worse, frostbite, cooks your food, and helps purify your water. That's what Val's gonna be working on up there. Now myself, I'm heading down to the waterfall over here for the second most important item that y'all can have in the wild. Water. Without water, your average humans is gone in a few days. But we can't just have ourselves any old water. We'll need to cook it over the fire to get any bacteria or whatnot out of it, just to make sure it don't get us sick.
Coming down the other side was a bit easier. With the backpack on, I was able to stay reasonably hands-free, though I did keep the bow shouldered in case I needed it.
Third on the hierarchy of needs out here is shelter. Without shelter, you're at the mercy of nature, and nature wants you dead. Don't you let it fool you otherwise. Now, at first, we'll be using the tarps to make a basic tent, and some stuff from around to make raised beds. Get us up off the ground so we... Well, that's a new one on me.
I was looking out at the falls and watched as fish after fish went up it. They would jump from the water, and at the height of it, they would sort of flatten out, almost like a flying squirrel, with the side fins acting almost like wings, push a bit, enter the water higher, swing their tails to start rising, and then repeat the process. I'd seen salmon go up small waterfalls, but those were little ones, a couple of feet of water to jump at most. These things, we almost literally going vertical.
Now don't this just beat all? I'm guessing it's their spawning season or something. Now don't get me wrong, I'd love to show y'all some archery skills, but no use risking the arrows on these guys.
I moved up along the edge of the waterfall, coming alongside it. They weren't quite within reach, so I produced the walking stick from earlier, and sure enough, it had more than enough reach. Combined a bit of the net and some paracord, and I had a rudimentary net for pulling fish out. It took a couple of attempts to get the timing right, but once I had it down, it was a simple enough matter of smacking them on the ground to daze them, then get the next one. As I kept going, one of the alert windows popped up. Achievement unlocked, the hunter. First species to successfully hunt a meal's worth of food. A secondary window offered one of two options, survival or comfort. I knew what I'd choose of the two, but hell, might as well play this up for a moment.
Well, now, we got us an interesting choice right here, y'all. If I choose survival, likely we get us something that'll help us get set up good and proper. Other side, I could get something what makes our daily lives a mite more palatable. So which'll it be? Be more pragmatic, or maybe lean in for something fun?
I stood there pretending to ponder and signaled to take luxury, and another new window popped up.
Your selection will be delivered to your campsite.
That'll be a shock to Val, but hey, hopefully we got something nice. I settled into the work at hand, cleaning and gutting my catch, while I explained the process and why it was necessary. Then I filled up my water jug. The netting I had remaining was still too wide, would essentially dam up the river for the fish. That's a problem, because while it would get us a huge haul of food immediately, it'd also wipe the fish out, and that wasn't a good plan. First things first, then, I sat and watched the fish move for a few minutes to see what path they were taking. Then seeing a solid baiting spot, set up the netting around there. It would hopefully catch one or two a day. With the netting in place and my fish prepped, that meant it was time to head back up. I'd need to make semi-regular trips to check the net, but aside from that, it should provide us a bunch of food. It did draw attention to a problem, though. On Earth, this would be a prime hunting spot for local predators, and they'd be just as likely to check my nets for food. Bears on Earth can quite literally smell for a 20-mile radius, and I had no idea what this world's equivalent would be, but I had to assume that as a baseline. They'd smell the fish in the net. Welp, only one solution to help at least ward it off a little bit. I walked up to the closest rock outcrop and pressing a button along my belt and unzipping my pants, I marked my territory around my fishing spot while talking to the illusory camera.
Sorry y'all have to see this bit right here, but what I'm doing right now should protect my fishing spot, long as I keep it up on the regular. I figure none of the predators round these parts know what we are yet, but they'll get scent marking and give it a miss, least till they get a better measure of us.
With that finished and my catch strung up, I went back to camp. Memories and emotions I'd rather not be dealing with right now properly penned back up. Coming into camp, Val was running over, clear excitement on her face.
Keith, look at these booklets.
The process wasn't particularly difficult. Just find wood that's strong enough to hold weight to form a frame. Also, cut some smaller bits of wood for stakes and set aside some cord for them. I made an executive decision and decided to raise it a bit so we could string up the hammocks and maybe even stand up in there. It's more complicated but less crap to live in, and I didn't know precisely how long we'd be in the tent. If it was just me, I'd go simpler, but Val wasn't used to this kind of living, so I didn't want to go too rough on her. Departing with tools in one of the emptied containers, I went to find wood. As with the fish, I took my bow and arrow, deciding to practice with it a bit before I got to work. I picked up a decent-sized tree. At first, I was just testing the draw weight by anchoring, until I felt I had the right weight of it. It was less technical and more a matter of feel. Then I fired my first arrow, putting it into the tree trunk, then dropping a second, third, and fourth in succession. The trick was just that I needed to get used to the thing, but it was a solid recurve and didn't give me much problem. Satisfied for now at least, I got back to work. But I would need to teach Val her way around it, in case something came up. In the woods, I start looking around, booklet in hand. For trees, it had basic information on whether it was hard or softwood, and if it bore fruit, those sorts of things. As Val had said, it wasn't deep information. It clearly hadn't been written by humans who would have added a bunch of extra information. The Evereads were my first stop, being coniferous, and thus softwood. Most homes are built with softwood, and honestly, with lower weight and density, they'd be easier to manage for the time being. Hardwood is great for things like flooring, or if I were building a cabin, but here it would just be more difficult to work with. The Evereads were easy to spot as well, and I had another item to check. They had a birch-like bark, and it got me thinking if the roots were like birches as well, we might have an extra little surprise for camp. I found my targets fairly easily. They were pretty straight, but hadn't gotten incredibly tall yet. Around the edge of the glade, Val was looking to turn into farmland. The trees in question also weren't so thick yet, probably about 14 feet or so. That meant they were still thin enough to serve their purpose. Grabbing hold of my hatchet and rechecking my ties, I went to work, cutting out a section on the side I wanted it to fall on, then going to the other side and getting to work properly. The whole time I was still chattering away to my invisible friends, explaining each step in the process. I'll also be perfectly honest here. Getting to just wail away at something for a while was pretty therapeutic. It'd been a long, rough day already, and the ability to just blow off steam against a tree was about the best I could get right now. In the first tree, pretty much everything went as planned. I cut it close enough to the cutout, then just yelled timber and pushed it over. I went straight to work on the next one, which also went well. However, on the third one, I guess I forgot to check my ties properly, and it came crashing down in my direction. Even something as simple as a sprained ankle could set us back weeks, or it could put me out of the game entirely if it were bad enough. I got out of the way in time, but it was too close. Once I got the trees, I started stripping branches off, cut down the tree into section lengths, and loaded everything into the container shell. Then took my rope and essentially made a harness for myself and went the long way to get up the bluff. The container plus me wouldn't get up the switchback trail well, which brought up another issue. The switchback wasn't precisely safe, and if we wanted to use it for anything more regularly, it would need to be built up. One more thing for the quest log. That's just kind of the way it went. I would see one thing I needed to work on, see something else, and realize other things that needed to happen. Well, focus on task. The extra walk did afford me a chance to look around a little bit more. I think that's the focus for tomorrow, is just learning the land around camp better. Maybe I'd even get to see some of the other things out here. No chance of that now, though. The sound of chopping would have run off anything in the area, even the larger predators. That said, I took a break from pulling my sled and sat down to just look over the glade for a bit. I'd pretty much been full steam since the beach, and now felt as good a time as any to just take a moment. The grass was a lavender color with white, teal, and pink buds where there would soon be flowers. Various little bugs were flying about, and there was a nice breeze coming out of the south. I just sat there on a world only on other human had seen in the flesh and smiled.
All things considered, I'd have wanted to see this anyway.
I idled for a little longer, then stretching, got back to my work. By now it was late afternoon, and I needed enough time to get the tent up. As I arrived back at camp, I could see that the fire was going in full now, and Val was sorting through her forage. At some point, she must have done a run down to the falls, because she was washing all of the vegetables in the other shell of a container, and now there was a small pot boiling atop a second fire. It was hard not to hear my approach, and Val broke off of her work to help me haul in.
I could have come to help you.
Nah, got to work out a lot of temper. Just need a small coma, and I'll be all right.
I said, finishing the push into camp. And then she brought me some water and made me sit down to drink it. I was warm, obviously from the boiling, but it didn't really matter. I sucked it down all the same. When I tried to question Val, I got shushed while she went back to work. Pulling out the gathered wood, I just sat there on a rock with my knife skinning the wood so we'd have some extra kindling and setting about work on the tent poles. The slope of the bluff was a bit of an issue, but that's something I could work on for the permanent dwelling. Here, what I needed was functional, not pretty. I still wasn't sure of the depth of the ground, nor was I willing to dig down to find it right this moment, so tripods secured with rocks and dirt would have to do. I got the tripods assembled and was checking them when Val interrupted, passing me a bowl of food, 2 portions of floater, a boiled yam-like thing, what looked kind of like spinach.
Before you finish killing yourself from work, let's eat.
I swear to you, I meant to savor it. My first meal on an alien world, made entirely from ingredients of that world. I wolfed it down like I was back in Boot.
That wasn't bad at all. Better, given the lack of spices or salt.
Val was maybe a quarter of the way through her plate and giving me a look.
You're certain you actually tasted the food?
Yeah, sorry. Meant to take my time, but in the end, just ended up wolfing it down. Old army instinct took over. I can hang while you finish, then I'll need help getting the shelter built. Might as well chat a bit.
Hey everyone, hope you loved the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more awesome sci-fi content. You can also support us by hitting the thanks button at the bottom of the video. Your generosity goes a long way. Every bit helps us bring you more stories from the stars. Thanks a bunch.